I'm Adrianna Sekula, Chair of the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber of Commerce and Manager of Government Relations at Walt Disney Parks and Resorts. With the sudden onset of COVID-19, the Kissimmee Osceola County Chamber did what many of our business members and peer organizations did, and moved our communications to an online platform. On July 1st, we launched our new 15-minute series featuring community leaders and elected officials sharing practical advice, timely applications, and topics to inspire businesses, members, entrepreneurs, and our community. Today, we are joined by Tim Weisheyer. Tim is the founder of Strategic Advantage Consulting, a firm providing consulting services to businesses, governments, and nonprofits. He is also a realtor at Dream Builders Realty and DBR Commercial, and an Osceola County School Board member. Tim is the chair of the Florida Realtors Political Action Committee and a committed board member at the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber of Commerce. Today, Tim will teach us ways to manage our time and our priorities, which is especially important in this time of COVID, when our personal and professional lives seem to be running into one another. Tim, thank you for joining us today. Please let us know a little bit more about Strategic Advantage Consulting and educate us in the next 15 minutes on how to better manage our time.
Thank you, Adrianna, and thank you for your leadership, and thank you to the Chamber for putting this together and being intentional about coming alongside of our businesses and leaders in our community during this time. Strategic Advantage Consulting is a firm that, as you said, provides customer service training, strategic planning, goal setting, time management, multi-generational harmony, just a broad array of training opportunities and programs to a variety of stakeholders. And that includes large companies like Disney, Nike, Dell, Hewlett-Packard, companies like that, as well as governments. And one of the things that we often get asked to train on is time management, which I always tell people, it's not really managing time. Time's going to continue whether we want it to or not. It's really more about learning how to manage ourselves. So I'm glad to just spend a few minutes kind of taking what I would typically train in a 3 to 4 hour session, condensing it down into 15 minutes to try to provide some tools and resources for our members. And as you said, Adrianna, really it is so incredibly timely when we think about what's going on right now with COVID-19 and people being pulled in a different direction and maybe out of their normal work environment, having to figure out how do they now manage these multiple priorities that are pulling them in two different directions, which could be home life and family, and then also work, career, and future growth and opportunity within your given profession. The first thing I always talk to people about is understanding the importance that, as said, the clock continues to run whether we want it to or not. We're all given the same amount of time every single day. And so the question is, what is it that we're best at, and how is it that we can really manage ourselves in that time? I'm a big believer in understanding your individual strengths and weaknesses. And fortunately for me, at a very young age in my career, someone had turned me on to the idea of really understanding my talents, my gifts, and my weaknesses, and being aware of what those are. And so I want to start just by saying to people, if you don't know, whether it's a Myers-Briggs, a DISC, a Clifton Strength Finders, an Enneagram, whatever it might be that you either have or want to use that first to understand, because in order to manage time, in order to manage priorities, you have to first understand where your strengths and your weaknesses lie. So I understand my strengths. I know what I'm really good at. I also know what I'm really bad at. And so what that enables me to do is to make sure that as I'm thinking about how do I focus my time and energy, I'm spending on the things that I know how to do and I know how to do very well. And then I try to surround myself with people that can help support those other pieces or parts. So I want to encourage you to first start with that. Go online, do one of those personality profiles, and understand what your unique bent is, what your personality really looks like. And I'm glad to talk to people about that too. If you do it, you want to understand how do you unpack that and how do you then utilize that into your own life, whether it's personal or business. I'm glad to do that. The second thing I talk to people about, and again, just high level, is thinking about, we've all probably heard, or many of us have heard about the 4 quadrants of time management. I want to just touch on those real quick. Quadrant 1 is this area of something that we should manage. It's that kind of urgent and important area. So a lot of times phone calls fall into this area. It seems important because the phone's ringing right now. It's happening in this moment. So it seems urgent. So people feel like they have to respond to it. I want to just let everybody know, I haven't had my phone on, my ringer, the vibration on it, anything For years and years and years and years, I do not let my phone ring. And the reason being is I do not want to spend my time just constantly looking at my phone and trying to figure out who's calling me. I don't know this number, what's going on. Those are all distractors that pull me away from really quadrant 2, which is where I want to spend most of my time. And this is something that's not urgent, but that is important. And this is where this whole idea of really managing priorities comes in. So what I do is I spend a good amount of my time planning and preparing and thinking through what are the things that I want to get done in the future. And those really are all the things that I've identified as priorities, thus meaning they're important, but they're not urgent because I'm planning those out over time. And so I'm not having to deal with fires as they come up. Quadrant three falls into not important, but urgent. That's going to be kind of these random things like quarterly planning or team activities, or maybe following up with somebody from a long time ago. It's urgent to you, and it's in front of you, and you feel like something needs to be done with it because it's important to you, but it's not really that important, not something you have to focus on today. And the last one, this is the one that I always warn people the most about, is quadrant 4, which is not important, not urgent. These are going to be those things that just take us away from everything that we know we're supposed to be doing. I want to encourage you to think about even emails being in this area. Like you, Adrianna, you said at the beginning, I wear these many hats and I have these many roles that I have to play. So as you can imagine, that means that the school board, I have my own email there, and the different real estate companies have their own email, and my consulting work has its own email. I have personal email. And so if I spent all of my time just looking at that, I would be wasting a ton of time. So all I do is I scan the emails first, I forward out and delegate the best that I can, I focus on the ones that need to, and then I move on, and I shift quickly from 4 back into quadrant 2. One of the things that I want to encourage people to think about too is, how is it that you start and shape your day? Most people, the first thing they do is they pick up their phone. I'd encourage you not to do that. Picking up your phone and looking at your email and your social and all that. I understand the social piece, and I'll touch on that just a little bit because that can certainly be a time robber from us. But maybe don't start with picking up your phone first. Maybe start with collecting your thoughts and really thinking through your day and what it is that you want to accomplish. And in truth, you should have ended your last day, meaning the day before, with what it is you want to do the next day, meaning today. And if you do that and you start off your morning every morning in a time of thought and reflection, okay, what are my priorities today? What are the things that I need to get done? What is it that's most important to me? You've already planned them, but it helps you get your head in the game. What happens so often is the first thing people do is they pick up their phone, they scroll social media, and then they get sucked into a vortex. The algorithms are built in a way to keep us tied and connected to it no matter what. And then it slows us down, and then we find ourselves in a rush to get out of the house to do things because we spent more time on Instagram or YouTube or something than we were supposed to. And it starts our whole day off in the wrong setting, in the wrong footing. So I want to encourage you, don't do that. I know that might sound weird to you, but I promise you it really is the right thing to do. The next part of this really becomes the idea of working a calendar. Many people have heard about time blocking. If you haven't heard of time blocking, it's one of the tried and true principles of really managing your time. People, and Adrianna, you know this because we've dealt with scheduling with one another on things. People ask me all the time, are you available on Tuesday at 4 or Thursday at 3? And I tell them, I don't know. I reference the calendar. I'm at a point now where I have somebody who manages my calendar for me, and I'll say, Karen's in charge of that. And if Karen says I can do it, then I can do it. And if she says I can't, because her and I have also sat down and discussed what are my priorities and what trumps what. And so there are times where things will be on my schedule and something more important will come up, and I have to trump that and move something into a different direction. But it's constantly this idea of managing all of these priorities and making sure that I set the course out. When we talk about your calendar, there's something really important I want you to think about here. Everything should be mapped out. And if you want to know just how insane, I'm glancing down at my phone here because that's where my calendar lives, how insane it is. I mean, it literally has on there every single morning people that I want to pray for, I want to think about, or I want to reflect upon. That is intentional for me. I do it every single day because I want to make sure I'm intentional about thinking about the gratitude I have for others. That's on my schedule. I've been doing a lot of swimming lately as part of my exercise routine. So that's on my schedule, is that I'm going to get up, I'm going to the pool, I'm going to swim. I'm intentional about all those things. I have in there making sure that I listen. I'm a big audiobook guy. I have had an Audible account since the time Audible was created. And so I'm constantly listening to new books, and I have 30 minutes every single morning set aside for me to do nothing but just think through or listen to a particular book or topic that I'm focused on. Every part of your day should really be structured. And I even have things on my calendar, and this is where I do slip a little bit, things like eating a snack or taking a break. And I know that sounds crazy, but you have to realize we're all given this very finite amount of time. And when you understand, first of all, where your natural talents lie, what you're good at, where your time is best spent, and where you can make the most money, if we want to put this in the context of money, then what you want to do is you want to be very intentional about making sure you guide and direct all of your effort and all your energy into those areas. And let me just say this too, because a lot of times it's companies that are hiring me to come in and to teach and to talk on these things. But there's a human element to everything we deal with. And so the same is true on the other side. All of these roles or titles, responsibilities that I have, they're all great, and I'm grateful for them, and they provide a lot of really great things for me and a lot of fulfillment for me, both personally and professionally. But I'm intentional about scheduling in my personal time as well. And that's even on my schedule as well, including, maybe I shouldn't say this because Pam finds out she might be mad, but even including little notes on my calendar to say, text Pam and just shoot her a message and let her know that I'm thinking about her. Just those little things, because I can get very busy, very into my day, and sometimes I can forget to even shift back over. But those are things that are important to me. They're priorities for me, and so I schedule them to make sure that I don't miss them. Now, Adrianna, you mentioned that I'm a real estate broker, and I have been for almost a quarter of a century now, and I've been blessed to have a really great career. But most people would be surprised to know that for years upon years, and I'm talking more than a decade now, probably two, I don't work nights and I don't work weekends, which most people think for a real estate broker, how is that even possible? Because the life of a realtor really is 24/7, and it is. But I set a course when my daughters were little that I did not want to miss cheerleading. I didn't want to miss chorus. I didn't want to miss youth activities at church. I didn't want to miss any of that stuff. And so I was very intentional about creating my schedule and my time and priorities around that as well. And community service was always a big part of that. And so I share these little things about my life so that people will start to see that you can do all of these things and you can manage all these different roles and responsibilities, spouse, kids, significant other, business, community responsibility, civic opportunity, if you're really intentional about setting a course and identifying your priorities. I'm going to go way back to the beginning here. So I said first you want to start by understanding yourself and your strengths, but you also want to spend time before you start to map out your priorities and really identify what your values are. Now, I'm grateful for the things that I do and the incomes that I earn and the opportunities that I have. But my life is about something far bigger than just the money that I make. And I made that decision a long time ago. In fact, I made it when I was 17 years old and going from high school to college. I made a distinct decision at that point that I wanted my entire life to be focused on investing in other people and building them up. And in truth, that's part of how the genesis of this consulting company came about, is how is it that I can continue to mentor and strengthen other people. And so I say all that to say that I started with identifying what my values were, and serving other people is a core value that I have. And so I schedule that into my time and into my routines. When we think about scheduling, I want to just touch on kind of how you should do some of this. We all have distractions that come at us all the time. And so we all have a limited amount of time in the day to where we're the most creative and the most innovative. You're going to want to understand what that is. Adrianna, you and I have mutual friends that are like up at 1 a.m, and that's when they're cranking things out. Their creative juices are flowing. That's certainly not me, but it's them. And if that's when they work the best, then God bless them, I guess. And you go right ahead. I'll be sleeping. But nonetheless, we all have this sweet spot. You want to understand what your sweet spot is. And here's what I'm going to encourage you to do. Is think about the moments that you're going to innovate and create in that sweet spot. Because here's where people really mess up, is they get to their office. We'll touch on home offices here in a moment. But they get to their office and they start up by talking to some people and kind of walking around and getting coffee and then checking their emails and then scrolling on their phone a little bit. And before they know it, if they got there at 8, it's 9:15, and they've already lost an hour and change of productivity. Now they're kind of in the dumps a little bit. Oh, I have to follow up on this email. And now they're starting to be pulled in all these different directions. And their creative juices are being stifled. For me, mine is earlier in the morning. So I like to make sure that if I'm going to do, create, or innovate, I try to do it in the morning. That's the time that I have the best creative juices flowing, if you will. And so I spend that time with that. And you think about it in this way. You want to spend time creating new opportunities and innovating and recreating and evolving and adapting in that sweet spot. And then you want to have a set amount of time to focus on the things you have to get done and have to be done. So I mentioned email. I hate email, to be honest with you. Our email inboxes have just become a clutter of a mess at this point in time, and everybody sends us emails. I made a decision long ago that I am in control of my time and my life and in the context of what it is that I do day to day. And so I'm not going to allow somebody else's timeline to dictate what it is that I do. Someone might send me an email and it's important to them. And it is of importance to me, but it does not trump the priorities that I put in place already. And so I have to tell myself, don't respond to that now, put it to the side. And I only want to open that email or deal with it once. When I open it, I want to be able to read it. I want to be able to consume it. I want to be able to respond to it. I want to archive it. What happens so often is we get the email in, we open it, we think about it, we go to another one, we think about that, and this routine continues. And then we go back to those emails again later and think, oh, I never did follow with Adrianna. I never did follow with Tim. And so now we start to rethink it again. You're touching something twice and you're wasting time on that. So be very intentional. Schedule time into your day where you say, I'm only going to read my emails during this time. I shared this with a friend of mine. This is probably 12, 14, 15 years ago. I don't even know. I was doing a training for a group of real estate professionals in Central Florida, and I told them, I don't answer my phone at a certain time. I get home, I put on my charger, and that is what it is. Now, admittedly, I do have an Apple Watch now, and so I still do get some notifications and things like that. Back then, Apple Watches didn't exist. Heck, I don't even know if iPhones existed back then. But nonetheless, I said I put my phone on a charger, and actually when I charge it the opposite direction, meaning I can't see the screen because I don't want to be distracted by it. So when I put it on the charger on its stand, it's facing the wall. So if it lights up or notifications come in, I'm not paying attention to anymore. I set a setting on my watch that I want to go into a do not disturb mode in certain times so that I'm not getting distractions any longer. And the reason being is that I'm very intentional about controlling my time and what it is I spend working on and focusing on. Let me just touch real briefly, because I know we're going to run out of time here sooner than later, and we're right up on it, is the distractions of working from home. Working from home for some may seem like a blessing. I would say for many, it's more of a curse. There are so many distractions that come at people, and being in your sweet spot in a creative space where you can control what it is that you need to focus on is going to be so incredibly important. And I know too many people are working from home, and they're playing with the dog, or they're taking care of the kids, or they're doing laundry, or they're cooking, or they're prepping, or they're doing something. If you're working from home, I want to encourage you to find a dedicated space and to do the exact same things I'm talking about. I'm going to end with this story because I know we're up on time. Many years ago, I had this idea, I built a new house, I built a great office in it, I'm going to work from home some. And every single morning I would get up, get showered, get ready, eat breakfast, go upstairs, put on a suit, and go in my home office. And Pam would walk in and she'd say, why are you sitting in here in a suit? I'm like, because I'm working. And I say that as a silly story. It's very true. And she would laugh at me and say I was weird. But the reality of it was I knew that I was truly in work mode then. I wasn't sitting around in my comfortable pants and shirt, just kind of chilling on the couch with my laptop. I was going into a dedicated space to stay focused, and all the same principles and concepts that I've touched on, the same things I was doing then. That's what's really needed now. And I will tell you, our economy is looking for that. This whole idea of working from home and remote working, although it may seem great right now for some, productivity needs to get back to the levels that it's supposed to be at in order for our economy to truly churn and for all of us to deserve the incomes that we receive. And so don't buy into the lie that working from home is the best thing because you get to multitask. Multitasking isn't real. You are either deadly focused on something or you're distracted and pulled in multiple directions and not getting things done. So, Andrew, I tried to jam as much in as I could, but I think I'm over on time.
No, you're excellent, Tim. Thank you so much. I personally learned a lot from you. I know our board has. The tips and tricks that you gave us were really important. And I think that if people want to dive deeper into testing what personality types they are, they should definitely look into that. The value system is the most important, I think, of all, because that'll guide you in what you're doing. And time blocking on your calendar. It's a easy to learn trait as long as you learn it right away. But I think it's significantly important. So for those of you watching, I learned a lot from Tim today in these 15 minutes, and you can learn more from him as well at Strategic Advantage Consulting, and he can come in and train your team virtually or hopefully soon in person on all of these time management skills. So thank you so much, Tim. And for those of you tuning in, if there's a particular presentation or conversation that you've missed in the past few weeks, you can find our Wednesday live streams on our website and on the Kissimmee Osceola Chamber Facebook page. Thanks again, Tim.
Thank you, my pleasure.